Welcome back to the channel. Before we get started, I'd like to share with you two things. First, a gambit is a device, action, or opening remark, typically one entailing a degree of risk that is calculated to gain an advantage. The second part is not a gambit. It is no risk to you. I would kindly ask that you please subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me, and it's free, and if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe at any time. There is no risk. Now, what is a gambit? Well, in Dead by Daylight, I decided to take a little bit of a risk with a certain pyramid head build. It involves the use of an add-on called the Obsidian Goblet. The Obsidian Goblet gives you undetectable while you stand in your Rites of Punishment trail. Around tall loops where you can't see him as well, this makes him very scary. But it takes a while to set up those trails, and they don't last that long, and they're really more useful to spread torment. You can supplement this with the Mannequin Foot. The Mannequin Foot increases the duration of the trails left by the Rites of Judgment by an additional 20 seconds. Meaning I can start out this game by setting up trails, especially on loops or in cornfields perhaps, that give me a strategic advantage when moving. Combine that with the perks Barbecue and Chili to allow me to see survivors once I start actually going and getting hooks, along with Ruin, which will allow me to hold my gens closer to the end of the game, because again, I'm giving up some gens early to get some trails set up, which will allow me to hog the last handful of gens. Combining this with my in-game trump cards, Save the Best for Last, which allows me to hit faster as long as I don't hit the Obsession, which can be easily done with Pyramid Head by using his special attack, and Noed, which allows me to insta-down survivors as I need to at the end of the game. Now, with all that being said, so let's get into the game. So, I get started, and again, my first thought is I need to patrol generators, but it's not a priority that I watch every single one of them. So, being at Fractured Cowshed, I immediately wanted to hit at least a portion of the cowshed. I saw the crows fly off over here, so I figured this was a pretty hot spot generator, and I can tell it has been worked on. But I tried to camp in this corn for a second, and that didn't really work out, and so I figured I would go set up some stuff at other generators. So as I go over here, I identify one survivor, and I actually start setting up the trials on the loop. I don't really immediately go for chase. So they lose me pretty quickly, go for a vault, and I get a free hit. And so I'm able to chase and pursue and go for a cheeky shot through the wall, but it turns out she had gone toward Killer Shack. So what I'm going to do is I decide to right the window to maybe give me a little bit of extra protection there, but I whiff on the window prediction, and she gets a little bit more ground. Now, this is still okay, because we're going back. I've gained undetectable again, and so she lost me a little bit, and I get a hit right before she gets through that window. So far so good. I have a couple of generators with trails near them that are holding up, which can allow me to undetectable near them and make me pretty scary guarding these gens. I've already kind of decided that this gen, the one I'm facing now, the one to my left, and the generator in the Killer Shack are probably the generators that I'm going to be guarding the most fervently. So the next thing I do is I decide to trail off the tree. This will give me some sort of counterplay if I ever get looped over there, because that's a very strong loop, and even though I'm Pyramid Head and have the tools to get around it, a good survivor can play me pretty well around it. So I see and I'm notified of something over here. I get a cheeky hit through the wall, and she panics and runs through the trails. Now, she does a very smart thing and does not run toward the tree, and she tries to scatter me as far from my main 3 generators as she possibly can. But she takes me to a very tall loop area where I can set up my trails, which makes my undetectable even more scary. She doesn't want to mess with it, she runs away and goes down for it. So at this stage of the game, they've completed 2 generators, and I'm away from my main 3. So what I'm thinking now is if I hook over in this corner, I'll be able to see which one of my main 3 are being worked on. And so I look back, and it looks like they're not working on the shack or middle generator, and if they're working on any of them, they're working on that back corner generator. But I get into a chase, and I use my undetectable trail to maybe throw them off a bit. I don't think he sees me going this way. But there's a new problem with this. This is my obsession, and I don't want to lose the 3 tokens that I have right now. in a chase, so I don't go for the easy hit. So I can use my special attack as Pyramid Head to deal damage and not reset my tokens. That will be important later. So he runs me to the cowshed where unfortunately my trails have expired, but I get a really nice hit through these hay bales. And I'm able to get a pickup and a basement hook, which is a big deal. Now, a lesser man would have camped the basement here with this strategy. However, I really was committed to guarding those 3 generators, and I think my strategy is probably less annoying and more fun if I actually return to my generators and use the basement as nothing but scare factor. With that being said, I do have time to go and check some of the other generators to not pressure myself so heavily there toward the end. So I go ahead and set a couple of trails near these edge generators where I already have a few trails. And I'm going over to check and see if there's survivors, and it doesn't look like there are any. So I think I've wasted my own time. He's still on the hook, and so I set up a trail near this loop that they very much like to use that's next to the shack, which I think is a smart move. Now here's where I use my trails to try to gain a little bit undetectable, but I'm still so close to the basement, so I return to it, use my trails to get a little bit close, and now all of a sudden my heartbeat's on top of them, and I have 2 survivors here to go after. Now, going after my obsession here isn't really the ideal play, so I don't. I want to save him for last, as the perk implies, because I get more value out of going after the others. He is wounded right now. He's going to stop to heal. And now I use my thing here to set up to see if I could be undetectable and make the chase harder. She makes a silly move and goes to the edge, and so it really ends up not mattering. Now, I'm doing something that I personally like to do, and that's spread torment. I don't like to burn my torment immediately if I don't have to. I treat it like a resource. Which is why I also like barbecued chili on this killer when some people say it's not as good. I like it on this killer because you use your torment to save time when they're dead on hook, and you use your torment to dodge DS. So now I use my trails to kind of hang near this hook and this generator. Watch over there. I don't see anything happen, so I go back to this generator and my totem, and no one's here. But this is a good trail to have down. I set it too close to the generator and to the totem, so it'll go away. But there are still edges there where it'll be nice. They get the unhook. It's near this generator. I don't see a whole lot of progress on it, but there is some. I get the hit down from behind the rock, and I use my final judgment to eliminate them from the game without risking a DS. So that's 1 person out of the game, and I have 2 generators remaining. I'm in a pretty good spot, especially considering the fact that it's not like I only have gotten hook states on the 1 survivor. I am in a good spot. So I return using my trails back to where my hex is and see that they completed the generator that I was trying to guard earlier along with the shack. Now she kind of runs up on me here, and I throw a cheeky special attack and it doesn't land. And so I start chasing, and I go to use my power. She pre-drops the pallet, so I walk around. And you'll notice that right here, I go to kick it. Go ahead and grab that. She runs through the torment trail and runs straight toward the center, which is what I was really hoping to avoid because this is a really strong loop, and I really need to defend my remaining 3 generators, which are in a great 3-gen position. I get a cheeky hit through the center of the tree, and she makes the silly error of stopping at the pallet. And it gives me a really easy hit, and I'm able to down her. If she had just kept running, I may not have been able to get such an easy hit. I know she hasn't been hooked recently, so I can go and just get a regular hook to apply pressure to the survivors near my generators. I see there's a generator nearby that's had an error. Unfortunately, the trail I said earlier faded. I go for a cheeky hit on the right side. I stay on my trail to see if I can confuse, but she is already bolted. I checked the locker just for the clip, but nobody was there. But I see somebody running back toward the killer shack. It's my obsession. Great. So now I have to try to fish for a special attack, and I think at this point he realizes I'm fishing for special attacks, so I can't keep doing this chase for long. The girl was saved off the hook, and I figured that that's a more fruitful endeavor for me. But I turn back to see if I can get him through the surprise. I don't. I know he's over here somewhere along that back wall, but I figured I could get him with the surprise of the trail. I continue to chase. In retrospect, I don't know if it was a good move to commit as far as I did on that. but I do eventually come to my senses and turn around and guard my 3 generators. It's vital that I defend my totem and this middle generator. It is of the most importance because of the hex tokens. I make a silly miss right there. I am in for it by making a good hit, and now save the best for last is up to 6 stacks. I recovered from that hit very quickly. They stepped in Trail of Torment over in the Killer Shack, and so I know that someone else is in the Killer Shack, which is good information for me. I predict the window and miss, and now I look silly. I actually think that the Felix is in the locker, and I was going to go for an easy grab. He is not. I go ahead and Torment near the pallet, and I start walking off this way, and I'm thinking maybe I can go for this hit because she's wounded and apply some pressure back here in this back corner, and so I commit. Now, this ends up working out fine for me, even through the missed attack. And I spend a few minutes chasing nothing, like an absolute professional, until I eventually cut bait and decide it's worth defending my totem, the Killer Shack generator, and the far corner generator. Again, I have a phenomenal 3-gen setup. This is a very good position for me, even with 3 survivors. So I step in there with my undetectable and no one's there. So my immediate fear is that my ruin is being destroyed, but no one's here either. This is where I discovered that their target is the corner generator. So this will become my focus, and that will be an important point for me later on. So I see that that generator has a lot of progress on it. And so my initial plan is that I'm going to set up some trails and sit here undetectable. Now, when I sit here undetectable, maybe one of the other survivors will come out and go for the gen, and it turns out they did. I get a cheeky hit, and I'm able to pursue this because I'm in a good position near my generators, and I can afford to go for this. I'm still in a position where I can pressure what I need to pressure. In the chase, I can chase off the Claudette from the middle generator, which is right next to my totem. I can go for a cheeky hit on her, whiff, turn back around, go to the middle and quarter generators. At this point, I kind of realize the Killer Shack generator is not the priority of these survivors. I catch the Nia trying to do something sneaky back to the middle generator. I'm chasing around Shack, I'm chasing around Shack. I punish. I get a hit. Now at this stage in the game, I don't need to risk anything. I don't need to wander off looking for hooks. I can get my kill, and I can walk back to the 2 targeted generators. Which again, the corner one is the one I'm the most afraid of right now. So I use my trails to kind of throw off terror radius. The Richter sees it coming. I see him run away, but I'm unsure if the Claudette is on that generator. And now here's the difference. Now, you're about to watch the most sad attempt for me to hit a special attack on Pyramid Head for the longest time. It's quite entertaining to watch me miss over and over again. But I know I have the time to do this. There's only one other survivor, and if she pops that generator, I get no ed. And the game is basically over. And so I'm like, okay, I can fish for this for a while, and I eventually get it. And I walk over here to the hook, because I know he is not dead on hook. And so I'm going over here, I walk to the hook, and then the Claudette pops the gen. And little does she know that she has been working on the gen right next to me, and no ed has just activated. Now, I can afford to set up these trails because I thought she was going to go to loot me, but she goes for the save. She has no idea I have no ed. She gets the Richter off in time, but because I have saved the best for last, and it's the last person, I don't mind burning my tokens here. So I hit Richter, down, eliminate, no DS chance. And over to Claudette I go, tell her that that was her dumb idea, cage, and game. So again, the Goblet is probably not a super strong add-on. It's probably very map dependent. I got away with it on Cold Wind because of the corn and the high walls on the jungle gyms. The play there close to the end where I set up my trails actually kind of came in clutch. I don't think I would have been as good a position I was if I hadn't have done that. I hope you enjoyed the more analytical style content and the post commentary of a really neat build. Feel free to try this yourself. I would actually recommend using a map offering like the game, for instance. That way you have the walls you can work around. The indoor maps are maps you should really use this build on. With that being said, I do hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you liked, and as always, take care.